So be prepared.
Let me get my hex power.
I like David. Are you conjuring a fascinating conversation? Is that what you're
doing?
doing?
I'm getting my hex power out because this episode was all about hex.
Yes.
What the hex?
Let's talk about hex, baby.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm not. Don't worry. This will be the last of my singing. But it is not the last of our discussion of Wandavision. This is, in fact, the Wandavision Wecap for episode 4. I'm here with Earth's Mightiest Critics once again. I'm here with Emmanuel Noisette of EMan's Movie Reviews, Don Shanahan of Every Movie Has a Yes and a Lesson, and 25 years later, and David Fowley of Keeping It Real. So thank you for joining us, everybody. Also, if you are just checking us out live on YouTube right now, feel free to jump in the chat. As always, we have Mark Krawczak from the Spoiler Room hanging out. It's always good to see Mark. He messaged me a little bit ago, I think probably right after he'd watched this episode, and said, "This is the one that says basically screw you to all your fan theories."
Yes, it does.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I agreed laughingly, and then I watched EMan's Is Vision Alive video from last week that we talked about. I'm glad I watched that after watching episode 4 and not episode 3, because man, does it open up a lot of cans of worms to the point where it almost seems too easy that what an episode that seems to dispel a lot of what we've been talking about for the last few weeks, it can't be that simple, especially because we've got 2 how many more episodes do we have in this season? 4. Oh man,
9.
Is it 9?
Math is fun.
Yeah, math is fun and hard. Don't shrug it off, school teacher. So we're not even halfway through this thing. So the idea that they're going to lay it all out and say, "Yep, everything that you thought was wrong," I don't quite think so. But it does open up some exciting possibilities. So we're going to jump right into it. The episode is entitled, I believe it's We Interrupt This Program, and boy, do they. This is the first episode we've seen so far of WandaVision. By the way, I should set the table. We are talking about WandaVision on Disney+. The episodes drop on Friday. We're up watching them, and we're talking about them same day. So what's that?
I was saying sell it. Get that money, Come on. Yeah.
Money.
Where's the nickel in the jar thing here? Yeah.
There you go. Well, so there is no paid promotion on this show, unfortunately, but maybe someday.
I'm out of here.
No winking. Yeah, I'm sorry. David, I can actually send each of you, I think, a nickel. Talking about Don's jar. But so who gets to do the recap for this week? I think EMan. We haven't really heard from you.
I like Don's. Let Don do it.
You want Don to do it?
Yeah.
Do it again? All right.
He smashed it.
All right. Smash again. Episode 4. Episode 4 is a place with the idea where you said we interrupt this program is a very active way of doing this, because we pause everything we've gotten to in the first 3 episodes and say, what is it about Geraldine? This episode is all about Miss Rambeau and her S.W.O.R.D origins, also where she came from in the events that led into and out of Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. So all of those folks out there who've been wondering where and when this is happening, we get a great big idea of that in this episode. This is a very Monica Rambeau centered episode. Wait, no, not Monica Rambeau. It's her daughter's name is not Monica.
Maria. Well, Maria is the mother.
Okay, so now we're
daughter.
Perfect.
Now, Monica.
This Monica. Whew, okay, we can edit that live, right? Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I'm editing right now.
Yeah. So, no, you for all those folks out there who are wondering how all of the outskirts of things you saw at the end of episode 3 got there, you find out that here today. Also, at the same time, you get some nice appearances from some other MCU plug-in people that kind of give us a little more scope and a little more connection to where things have been before and where they could go further. Because this is the non-spoiler recap part, I don't want to quite say who we see and who we don't get, but for the Tiona Paris fans, this is your episode. For all those folks who've been kind of waiting this out, going, "Oh gosh, this is too weird. I wish they could just tell me a few things." You get this time, this episode, to get a few things figured out. And as we've kind of hinted so far in introducing ourselves in this show, it takes a baseball bat to many of the fan theories out there that ruin all the content for people like that guy down there. but it's okay.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, Dave. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going. Yeah.
It's the most messed up Brady Bunch grid I've ever seen.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, we will keep it.
Oh, that guy down there.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
I can't.
Hey.
No.
I got some fingers for all you guys, but no,
Don't go there.
no, not in that sense. Jeez. But yeah, we'll keep it spoiler light for the first couple minutes, but we're gonna have to get into spoiler territory pretty quickly in order to really open this episode up. And we'll give a full forewarning when that happens. Especially as we say every week, if you have not watched the latest WandaVision, that's what we're here to talk about. So you've been warned. Hey, people just like hanging out with us, man. It's undeniable.
Yeah.
That's sad.
So, essentially, what I loved about this episode. First, I want to talk about the opening. I do not study the Marvel properties in the same detail that you guys do. Certainly not you, EMan. I don't know how many thousands of times you watch each of these things in order to put together your theory videos. But have we seen other instances where we have a Marvel logo sequence? Because this typically opens up, these series with the kind of the Marvel, the new version of flipping through pages, right?
Yeah.
But right here, we open up as people are coming back from the snap or the blip, as they call it.
Right.
Monica is running through a hospital. People are rematerializing all around her, and she's freaking out. Everyone's in pandemonium. She runs into a nurse, and she's very confused because I guess she had blipped when she was at the hospital with her mother, who was going through surgery for cancer surgery, and everything was fine. She gets blipped, wakes up 3 years later, and her mom's. Is it 5 years?
She's 5 years, yeah.
Five.
Well,
Okay.
It's weird because
they said something about 3 years in
the
there.
doctor said
The mom died 3 years ago,
but you've been
but
gone.
Monica had been snapped away 5 years in total.
So so this is like
One
an
survived
Ellen
years.
Ripley situation.
Hold up, though. I watched this twice now, and
Okay.
the doctor said your mom died 3 years ago. You disappeared 2 years ago.
2 years prior to that.
Years prior.
Is that what she's saying? Oh, 2
2 years
prior.
prior.
Yeah.
It's 5
okay.
years total that she was gone.
Okay. All
But
right. So 2
within
years
that
prior,
time,
okay.
yeah.
Kind of like some guy
Math.
with a beard
I told
said
you,
at the
math
beginning
is
of the show, math, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, math is fun.
Where's that finger we need again?
Also, David, it doesn't count if you
between
watch
the
an episode
lines.
twice while you're drinking.
Correct.
So,
I'm not going to argue.
okay. So, but the whole point of the Marvel logo thing is it's not only is it the music that has been really fun and powerful way to introduce these films, but you really get the emotional impact, the frenzy and the freneticism of Monica's state of mind when she understands that she's been gone for so long, her mother's dead, and she doesn't know what the hell is going on. And we find out after that wonderful logo sequence that there's a lot of information we didn't have, which compounds everything that she's feeling. Her mother not only founded S.W.O.R.D, apparently, but Monica was, one of the top people in that organization. So for her to be Photon. Was she? Is that
was the nickname for the mom.
That's her call sign as a pilot.
See, Maria Rambeau started out as a fighter pilot, and then eventually Captain Marvel, and then she took on the name Photon. And
okay. I
call back
Monica.
to the comics.
Yeah. I'm mostly picking this stuff up from Captain Marvel, which is very confusing because the last time we saw Monica Rambeau, she was like 12 years old because that story took place in 1990 or whatever.
Right.
So there's a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah.
But so S.W.O.R.D, as we've talked about, and as EMan has theorized, is no longer studying sentient worlds, but now sentient weapons. And it's the counterpart to S.H.I.E.L.D. and all of that. Monica has been grounded to studying phenomena on Earth, and she gets a call to go out and investigate what essentially is the Shimmer from Annihilation, which we've been talking about, getting glimpses of the thing that's contained Westview, this town in New Jersey. So from here, this is where I think we have to dive into spoilers, because everything I've just described happens in the first 5 minutes of the show. So there's nothing too major going on. It is the setup for what happened. So right now, seriously, if you have not watched WandaVision, turn away. And no, Mark, this is not the Mandalorian discussion. So
Turn away.
Oh,
Turn away, Renee.
guys, come on.
yeah, I thought I saw Grogu popping around in there. But anyhow, so
Yeah.
she shows up to New Jersey. She meets Agent Wu, played by Randall Park. There's a lot of funny in this episode, even though this doesn't take place in a sitcom reality for the first time. There are a lot of sitcom-y style jokes, kind of, but that's not necessarily a criticism, I don't think.
It's an homage to XFiles, kind of, you know.
A little bit. And I think it's a lot of the goofiness that was always light with Randall's appearances in Ant-Man, which
Ant-Man.
yeah, those are lighter movies than the doom and gloom of the other ones.
And the now Dr. Darcy, you know, meow meow.
Did you catch Randall doing the magic trick he learned from Scott?
Sure did.
That was awesome.
Popped out the card.
Yeah, loved it.
I saw that.
Without the cards.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was cool.
Yeah, I did appreciate the fine balance that they struck in this episode with the levity, but also X-Files is a perfect way to describe the show, and it made me think about, could we get, I didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I don't know how similar it might have been to something we see in an episode like this, but there's so much, on the ground. I was thinking of the comic series Marvels from the early 90s, where we're getting the on the ground perspective of people living in a superhero world. I could almost watch an entire series where superheroes don't show up, more than
I have a question.
We saw a bit of Daredevil. Yeah. I'm done rambling. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Before we move forward, the conversation between Tyler and Monica, did anyone pick up anything major from that, Easter egg reference wise?
I mean, describing the actions of S.W.O.R.D. and how you have a little bit of like, just when he was describing kind of what the company, I don't want to say company, but like what it used to be and what they're into now. Like you hear him name drop drone stuff, you hear him name drop nanotechnology, you hear him name drop the idea of the space stuff as well as the domestic stuff, but also the shift of business, so to speak, where things are more terrestrial than astronomical because of whatever has been going on, and of course this blip that threw everything back off. So I think the clues I get are what are they in business with and what are they in business for, and then what was the other thing was is it the nanotech stuff?
Well, yeah.
That's that little bit of post Tony Starkish kind of thing.
Sure.
Okay. I'm wondering if we're ever going to find out that they sent out 4 people into a rocket and in space and they never came back.
Yes.
We talking about that.
Thank you. That's the one thing I've been sitting here like, why is no one talking about this? Like
they mention cosmic radiation. Yeah.
I'm like, this is the first time we've heard these terms in the MCU. Why is no one talking about this?
So, if I'm following, fellas, if there's a spaceship of reblipped people and the snaps of cosmic radiation that comes off in Endgame can be our waves that transform. Oh boy!
It could have been a negative zone. We didn't know.
Boy, that would be awesome.
This is what I'm talking about.
If not, Carlton Weston just got sent to a planet with apes, and that's kind of fun too. We're totally dig it.
They could have been blipped out into the negative zone. They could have been gone for 5 years. This is perfect.
I don't think they were.
It's so perfect.
Yeah, I don't think they were blipped out.
No,
but
they could have been gone for 5 years though.
The fact that anything could happen with that, because the mere fact that they mentioned that they used to deal with space and that they had a program and it's just whatever. And then we're talking about cosmic stuff. I'm like, can you make it more obvious? Like, this is it, but anyway.
And if that's the way they can weave in, because it's so post facto.
It's easy.
We've gone through a decade of Avengers films, and how do you bring Fantastic Four in after everything that's been happened? That's a way to do it.
I think that's what's interesting about Easter eggs, is because they don't have to always be something you visually see. They could be in lines that are dropped. Yeah.
It's just implied, so that, look, it's already been announced that Fantastic Four were coming. Like Feige's already made that announcement. Yeah. But it just struck me that they would use WandaVision to lay the eggs early this soon.
Well, she just
for
had
that.
twins, so
I love it.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, like, I had a theory about this during Endgame.
Yes, you
when
did.
they started showing the waves and impacts of the snap. Now, I didn't have anything else to go off of, but now this confirmation with S.W.O.R.D and the reorganization, it's all there. So anyway, next video.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
I think the opening here is a really interesting way to give us another angle or perspective of the blip, because the blip was introduced as kind of a comic gag a little bit. You got teenage reflection, from Far From Home, and like all of a sudden, basketball players are gone. Oops, but this, I mean, it's kind of almost a Walking Dead type feel where she wakes up in a hospital and it not that there's nobody there. It's just there's chaos and people are. She shows up in a hospital, literally seeing herself reappear. So I mean that was pretty cool. So it's like she doesn't even realize she was gone. But
nobody does. Well, anyone that was snapped away, no time has passed for them.
Right.
It's kind of like
something we haven't had explored all that much. Ted, like our guy, is it Ted in Far From Home? Kind of, sort of talked about it a little. Is it who's our guy?
Yeah, the kid that kind of grew up.
Yeah. So like, we don't get that perspective, and the way Mark over here in our comments are talking about, like, I'm with him where like that reconstitution special effects was so damn good.
See, and I love that.
Slow. You got the voiceover in the background.
You got more time with TV,
and just the like the way Ian introduced it, the jarring effect of that, and the sharp reconstitution of it. Because as soon as that dust kind of shows up to open the cold episode, you're like, wait, is that what I think it is? And you're like, that's what I think it is.
See, I initially thought it was like the ether of the gem power, and
I
I'm
did
like,
too.
no, that's
I did too at first. Yeah, I thought it was that. But the thing that's beautiful about just this entire episode, this is exactly what I would expect from an MCU show to do. Yes, we know that these shows are here to give us filler information. But the fact that you're presenting stuff that we knew people came back, but you're showing it to us in a different way. And you're using new elements to do that as well. That to me makes this beyond filler. And it's not just a typical filler. Like, now it's meaningful. Now it's impactful, because you're, like you guys mentioned earlier, now you're also showing us a different emotional side to this. It's not just the humorous, aspect of the blip. It's like, wait a minute, there were real world consequences to this. People had feelings. Like, what does a hospital look like? When people just come back. And I love the fact that this showed us not just that aspect, but just, again, a whole new perspective of things that we didn't see, especially from S.W.O.R.D's angle. Of all the events that transpired. And we'll get into that with more spoiler stuff, but I just thought that was so refreshing, because, again, it's one thing to show us information we already knew, but to show us from a different perspective, that is beautiful.
Now, to answer Mark's question in the chat, if I'm following the beginning with Monica correctly, we have our blip moment, the realization of where she's at, and then when she strolls into S.W.O.R.D headquarters, it's been, did I hear right, 3 weeks since the blip that she's like, now I feel comfortable enough to go back to work. So would that put this before or after or during Far From Home?
I thought it was right after Far From Home.
Yeah,
right?
Like, I mean,
where the blip happened.
The blip is happening the second the Hulk did the snap. So second she came back, they're off still fighting Thanos and doing their thing at the Avengers headquarters
that day.
Like that, like that's still happening at that moment.
Yeah, so it could be before. Yeah,
it could be a little bit before, but then again, we don't know how long. I don't know. I didn't see a time designation. Maybe I missed it from the time of the hospital to the time of her going back.
I
guess 3 weeks.
Yeah, it was 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
My time question is, how long post blip is it before Peter's summer trip to Italy? Like how far post blip is that?
And then also, Endgame happened before Far From Home. So is this before Endgame?
Ooh.
Because
no.
I mean,
because the blip happened the blip happened at the end of Endgame.
Yeah. Are you talking about like the
disappearance happened at the end of Infinity.
Right.
And then the blip happened at the end of Endgame.
Yeah. So just so everybody knows, because I know there was confusion with this, and Feige had to like explain it. The snap is still the snap. That's Thanos.
Yeah.
5 years. Then Hulk, his snap, that's the blip.
Yeah.
So when everybody comes back, that's the blip.
Disappearance, reappearance. Yeah. And thanks for pointing that out, because I think I'd referred to the blip and the snap interchangeably a little bit ago. So one thing it occurs to me, the snap and the blip were instantaneous as far as the people who experienced it are concerned. So when people go through the snap, we saw them at the end of Infinity War having a couple of minutes, at least the Avengers, or a few seconds at least, to watch themselves disappear and be like, oh no, what's happening? And they can reach out and say, oh no, not you too. When they come back, it's sort of the same thing. So what is that trauma like? You see yourself disappear and then in the next second reappear with no idea of where you've been that entire time.
Yeah, or how much time has passed.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think it felt at least because the only person we know at this point is Monica that's given us kind of like a direct sensation, I guess, or experience. And I mean, it seemed like to her that she had just dozed off, kind of like if you doze off and you're just like, man, how much time has passed, Yeah,
she was sitting there next to her mother in bed in the hospital.
Yeah.
We got a quick question from Beer Garden Production.
Let's do it.
Let's see. Oh, no, we don't have a Discord link for the chat, but we do have, can I put my theory for the upcoming episodes?
By all means.
Yes.
Type it in,
if you want to just type some in here, we'll look at them in the comments. We don't have a Discord set up because I am technologically illiterate. It is frankly a miracle that we are live streaming right now.
It's true.
As my cohorts can attest. So yeah, if you want to drop some stuff in the chat, we'll definitely have a look and speculate. In fact, I think some of what we're going to get into in a little bit has to do with the future. It's funny. We were talking last week about, or maybe it was the week before, if the series continued with these sort of, jumping ahead to a different decade and a different genre of television each week, where could it go? We've seen some Married with Children's type stuff in the promos. YouTube today had a promo image for WandaVision that had an image that I haven't seen before. And it looked like Elizabeth Olsen sitting on a couch. And I immediately thought, this looks like it's in the Modern Family kind of framing and almost the same lighting and everything. So I'm wondering if they're going to go for that sort of reality docu-sitcom type of a thing.
They're keeping it in-house with the ABC, Disney.
There you go. Okay, so we've got one. It's really long, but I'll give it a try. Crazy theory about where this is going. So in the next episodes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, where believed Wanda is the main villain, Vision starts to suspect that something is wrong in the Halloween episode. Vision gets out of the fake reality and dies because, as we see in the trailer, him standing in front of the edge of the TV reality wall where he tries to escape and see where this is going. What do you guys make of this?
I still think he's dead. Or the Vision as we knew him is dead. And if something new were to be rebuilt or recreated, that's what you're going to get, and we got that jump scare and a half this episode of him showing up in the last place we saw him, or the last state we saw him.
Looking and that was undead.
Oh, that was awesome. I still think he's dead.
Could be. As far as Wanda being the straight up main villain, I do think that she has been convinced. Either you start to believe your own lies, or you have somebody around you encouraging you to believe your own lies, and then you become the center of your world. You become controller of your world. It's like your own Minecraft. You're so proud of it, and you're going to keep it that way. But what if the person you love, who you brought back to life, maybe, is starting to see things that maybe aren't all that?
I don't think there is a real villain per se. I mean, I think that's subjective. I do think that there is some danger that is happening. One thing to take note, Darcy when she was talking about the CMBR. She, they were like, yeah, we're at a safe distance. We're fine. And she was like, for now, which means and gives me the implication that whatever this energy field is, it's growing and or spreading. But I'm still of the opinion that this is more a take on emotional breakdown. I still think that, she is doing whatever she can to cope with her situation, with the trauma of the blip, because again, she's had zero time to really process anything.
Yeah.
And she could be getting coaxed, maybe pushed in some way, shape, or form. But one way or another, she's still in absolute control of what's going on. I mean, she literally even says it. Yeah. Then she displays it. When the world breaks, she puts it back together. We also see that display of her powers with the censorship. When we see the episodes being censored, it is right in line, because this is something we didn't know. We knew, or at least suspected heavily, anything that happened within this reality was under her control. What I didn't know, and maybe others, everything outside of it, I didn't know she had any impact outside of that force field either. But apparently when we saw with the law enforcement, she does. And according to Monica's theory anyway, if you have a personal connection to Westview, you have selective amnesia at this point. And I think that is just a defense mechanism from Wanda to protect the truth of what's going on in this area. Because Westview is a real place. We did see Monica driving on the expressway and there was a sign there, which means that clearly this is a real destination. But if you know anything about it, if you've seen it or been from there or whatever, it doesn't exist for you, and again, that's just a safety measure so that no one goes poking around and potentially threatening this reality.
Boy, Biergarten's got some deep cut Marvel theories there.
Yeah, he does there.
Okay, don't think anyone tried to chase him down or Wanda tried to kill him. I think he went out and just died. Then this theory starts. Who took his body back? Was it Wanda? It could be. If we slow down the trailer, you're able to see a mysterious figure. I think this person looks more like a guy with a cape. It's either Nightmare or Mephisto. Nightmare picks up Vision. Eesh. So Vision knows he is actually dead and tries to fight Wanda because she lied to him. Wow. So Nightmare and Vision work together. This is
it's like reading a script here.
Yep.
Let's see. All right. I want to go back
for Nightmare.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I want to go back.
We're ready for Mephisto, although they're dropping that.
I don't think we're ready for Mephisto either.
They might suggesting it though.
They're suggestions, but I don't think we're ready for the hellish demon from a different dimension yet.
That'd be a great family film.
Right.
Well, I want to get back to something that EMan had mentioned in his Vision theory video. Which,
I didn't see that.
Okay, well, hey,
thanks for the views, Dave.
I'm a friend.
Your friend counts for all of us.
No, but you mentioned something, and I apologize if you guys have been talking about this. I've been trying to keep up with the chat and everything here, but the idea that there may be actually two visions in this reality. One
double
that
vision.
Double vision.
So, hey, we lost a viewer when I started singing. I get the message. I'm sorry.
Oh boy.
However,
we'll all sing.
No. Then we'll be dancing with ourselves. So Vision, there may be a construct that Wanda has created in this reality because it's a coping mechanism for all the reasons that EMan has laid out in terms of her lack of time to process all the trauma she's been through, basically since this series, the movie series started, or at least since she was introduced. And then the idea that perhaps S.W.O.R.D has brought back Vision in some form and implanted him in her consciousness as an agent of their goings on to try and stop this thing that she is manifesting, or at least to understand it. And the idea of what would happen if that is the case, and if these visions caught wind of each other and then started fighting, I think it'd be awesome. There is a moment towards the end of this episode where Wanda has banished Geraldine / Monica into our reality. We get to see the events that were only kind of teased at the end of the last episode. And when Vision walks in and he is at once that nightmarish corpse thing that Thanos had blasted all to hell at the end of Infinity War, then he changes back to his regular self. Wanda kind of says everything's fine. Let's go hang out with the kids and watch TV. As he follows behind, he has this sheepish kind of like, something's wrong here, but I gotta play along. Like whatever version, if that's the creation version that maybe Wanda is losing control of, or if maybe that's the Vision that is the agent that maybe he understood that Geraldine was also in this reality, but she's disappeared, and that's really bad news. Something's going on there. So one Vision or two, I love the new layers that we're getting to these characters and them trying to understand the reality that they're in, which brings me to David, or was it Don? Someone, again, I apologize, messaged in Facebook one of those Easter egg YouTube videos where it's like, okay, David, I thought so. It was like 70 million Easter eggs from this episode. I didn't watch it because it's like ungodly long, but I did catch something that stuck out to me, and I actually did pause and a Google search during the episode. Ooh. When Wanda blasts Geraldine through the wall, then she reconstitutes the den. There's a giant library section of bookshelves. That's essentially what a library is. You can't really see anything on the shelves except one book. What? Behind me. Oh, yes.
Come on, man.
Very much so. No,
Who are you?
I don't, this is the internet, so there could be like an internet wraith behind me, like in one of those horror movies. So I don't know. Yeah. Please be a little bit more emphatic if that's the case. So anyway, this library that we see, you can't really make out anything that's there except for a name on a book on the bookshelf. There was Mark Chagall. I looked this person up because I didn't know what that meant. Mark Chagall was a Belarusian-born French painter, printmaker, and designer who composed his images based on emotional and poetic associations rather than on rules of pictorial logic. And that's sort of what we've been talking about this entire time. Yeah. Maybe it's like a hint, a subliminal hint, sort of like that Austin Powers line about continuity, just ignore it and go along for the ride.
I thought that it's like, she's a man, baby. Oh, no.
No. I was thinking the TV show Lost, where they used to plant clues in books all the time.
Oh,
yeah.
So I don't know if that was, if that Easter egg made the cut, but if not, someone's got to go remake a video, and you're welcome. Okay. So any other, kind of deep Easter eggs or theories you want to get into while we've got the time?
Deep Easter eggs and theories.
Well, while you're thinking, Don, I think that it was kind of funny to see that kind of, quick pop-up headquarters that sort of had around the dome. And to see Jimmy Woo with his dry erase board basically asking the same questions that we've had all along. It's just kind of
how you guys noticed the board?
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
The interesting thing there, he asked the question because he was like, what do we know, what do we don't know, and stuff like that, and he mentioned Skrulls on the board, and I thought that was interesting because he's just FBI. He's not like S.W.O.R.D, S.H.I.E.L.D, like he's FBI, which gives me the impression that either the FBI now knows who or what Skrulls are, or Jimmy Woo has had specific contact because I know he's going to be in other properties and stuff too. But clearly he's had some other experiences where he knows Skrulls are a thing and that they are suspects. And maybe, S.H.I.E.L.D and or S.W.O.R.D has been dealing with the Skrull menace for the past 5 years. Which we already know that Sam Jackson and, so Nick Fury and Talos are going to team up and do Secret Invasion as another Disney show. So, maybe that takes place right before the blip, after the snap, or no, it wouldn't because Sam was gone. So maybe it takes place after the blip or something.
It could do young Sam again.
Maybe. Maybe. That's true too. Pre-Infinity War. But one way or another, I just thought it was really interesting that of all people, he would know about that.
Right.
You know, I would have suspected that Monica would know about it because she's had direct contact with Skrulls. But the fact that he knew, I'm like, whoa! And you're just writing it out in public, like, you know, so somebody's not gonna be like, yo, bro, what's a Skrull? What are you talking about? What is that?
In a room full of
explain
interns
this,
and dudes. Yeah,
explain this. You know, so it seems like it's common knowledge, at least within S.W.O.R.D. And again, hey, Maria Rambeau did found it. She had contact with Skrulls too. So again, maybe it's common knowledge within that industry or that you know, that branch. So you know, that's something to look at.
Do you guys get the feeling that Maria probably didn't want this for Monica? You know, maybe knowing the experience that she had. Yeah.
No, I mean, she was going to be the director.
I get the vibe that she was going to have the other dude's job.
Sure. No, I'm saying about like that.
That's why it was awkward.
That her mom, Photon, didn't really want this for her daughter. But
no, I think the opposite.
Okay.
No, she wanted to prep her for it. I think this is no different than Howard Stark, you know, being the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever.
Inventor.
You know. Yeah. So
it could be.
One thing I want to get your thoughts on, when Darcy is watching, when she discovers what's going on inside this shimmer.
I love that we still call it the shimmer.
Well, yeah, I can't not think of Annihilation.
Me too. I'm right there with you, man.
And this TV show makes me think more fondly of Annihilation, a movie I actually dislike. But
for me, but yeah. Right. Not until some tusked weird thing starts killing grass and people. I don't know.
Well, you know, the series isn't even halfway done, so we've got time. But when she first discovers something that is going on, she's checking out the radio waves, and we get a glimpse of Wanda in that 1950s kind of Leave It to Beaver outfit, and then it kind of goes away, and she's like, "You got to get me a retro television, something without a flat screen," I think she calls it.
So that's who's been watching.
I believe
they recreate that first scene, you know,
right? Because she sets the pen down, and I think that might be the thing we saw at the end of the pilot, right? So. She starts watching this. One of the first things that we notice is that eerie kind of laugh track coming in on the audio to let us know that this is really part of this whole sitcom construct. And then she starts watching as we're watching, and the movie sort of becomes the TV show, keep calling it a movie, sort of becomes a clips show in a lot of ways, where it's for the benefit of the characters, sort of, because this is the first time they're seeing it, but we've been watching it for 3 weeks already, so we get it. But it's kind of nice to revisit
not
these
only
moments.
that, but we've gotten the behind the scenes action too.
Yeah.
You know, like within the TV show, because everything that's been censored, we see, you know, and what's interesting is, you know, it's funny, just, I guess, the layers that this all operates on, right? Because in a sense, this is what would happen on a TV show if that were the case. Like if there was some serious stuff going on, somebody'd say, cut, take that out, you know, start over. So that is kind of cool that they're doing that. But, you know, every disruption that happens that gets censored out is something that threatens the reality of that world. So Mr. Hart asking too many questions, you know, the radio, when they phone in, when Wu phones in, you know, anything that like is the beekeeper, you know, I'm pretty sure that doesn't even get seen as well, because that got rewound, you know. All of these things to keep that perfect image going, that's the show. But we fortunately get to see all these weird situations happen, especially what happens with Wanda and Monica. And, you know, I just thought that was really cool that, you know, we get that inside look, and S.W.O.R.D is sitting here thinking like, what is going on? And that prompts, I think, especially Agent Wu to be like, yo, who's doing this to you? Because that's all he sees. You know, he doesn't see Wanda doing anything on her own volition. And it does look like, oh, man, someone's taking advantage of her.
Well, but here's what I was getting at. And I'm glad you brought this up, because they're watching very particular things. When they get to the end of the Brady Bunch episode, we see the conflict with Geraldine. And then it cuts to Vision and Wanda sitting on the couch with the credits rolling by. What we don't see is what was going on in that driveway at that moment with Herb and Agatha, or Agnes, or Agatha Harkness.
Same thing. Same thing.
Vision talking to each other. So the reality of the sitcom that they're watching does not include this other stuff that we've seen.
Yeah.
But we've seen that in the context of a sitcom reality. So it's like how many different meta narratives are playing out in this field, and how much is Wanda actually aware of what's going on?
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last episode or not, but in the last video or not, but like the most interesting thing that happened in the last episode, in episode 3 to me, was the fact that Dottie and Phil, Frank, whatever his name was, their husband, we actually cut to them and they were experiencing, the power outage or whatever. And I'm sitting there, I was like, wait a minute, you guys have lives outside of the main characters? Because like you usually don't think about these side characters and what they're doing in their everyday lives, because they seem, to only be there to support the main characters.
Constructs.
And I thought it was interesting that we actually took time to see them, even if it was just for a brief moment, because it just demonstrates the fact that they're still going along with the script. They're still a married couple. They're reading their newspapers. They're, cooking dinner. They're doing whatever. They're still going along with whatever this reality construct is making them do. And, that to me was just like, wow, like this is pretty thick that it's happening everywhere and not just around Wanda and Vision. So yeah, to your point about what's going on with, Agnes and Herb and Vision, it's happening, but it's still like side talk. It's not part of the main script, basically.
But what you're talking about is very interesting with these other characters essentially reacting to the power outage. You said it's very much a sitcom trope where you'll cut to someone in some other part of the town that's being affected by something just for a second for a quick comedy reaction and then back to the main action. Right. What if whatever mind or force is constructing the sitcom reality is playing it out almost exactly to the rules of a conventional sitcom, using real people in this construct? So essentially the neighbors, they only pop into existence for the needs of the story. So similar to the snap, where they get snapped out of existence, and the blip where they come back into it, they have no recollection of what's going on. What if within the confines of this reality, they don't exist until they're called upon to be the focus of the story, even if it's just for a second? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, but we know that they do, because S.W.O.R.D looked them up, and they are real people.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They are trapped in this reality, but they're sort of asleep or in some other mode of consciousness until, like, what if the neighbor character is unconscious unless he's in a scene with Wanda? Like all of a sudden he's sitting in his living room, all of a sudden they're sitting around the pool having a conversation. But then when the scene cuts back to Wanda and Vision in their living room, those characters sort of cease to exist.
You're kind of getting to a Pleasantville place where, like, what was it, Jeff Daniels' character who just keeps rubbing the counter? That's the only thing he knows how to do. And
he's like, they're like NPCs, except for when they're called upon to be.
And then until he's imbued with a little more purpose, and then he stops wiping the paint off the counter and goes and has a life and paints new pictures of Joan Allen. But that's okay,
All right, so we got some comments to catch up on with Mark. Also, one from Beer Garden from a little bit ago. He had watched, or they, I don't want to assume, but watched the season or the episode 5 trailer, which was, I guess, on YouTube. I was not aware of this.
I didn't even see that yet.
I'm a no trailer guy, so
I gotta watch EMan's video first, and then
clearly they said that's where their theory about Nightmare and Mephisto came from, I guess, with the shadowy figure. So I'll have to check that out, or I guess we'll know by next week. I was not even aware that they are dropping these episode specific trailers for next week. I'm surprised they didn't just put those on.
I've seen them only like a day or two before the episode comes out, but I didn't know that they were dropping them that quickly. Like, okay, this came out, but boom, here's the next trailer.
Well, they might be looking at some of the reactions of people online about this show is going nowhere. So they're like, we gotta set this up.
Yeah. But that's the funny thing is, like you said it before, with like the idea of a clip show, and every sitcom has their really crappy episodes that are just like, remember when we had this like 2 years ago, and it turns into, Michelle Tanner stuff on Full House. Like, if for this to be the clip show episode, it's the most efficient clip show episode we'll ever get of how much ground is covered and how much unveiling and explaining you get, which was a blast.
This episode is kind of like, there you go, whiners and complainers. You happy?
Yeah. And the fun part is, you knew they made it a year ago where they knew this was coming. They knew we would get 3 episodes in and be like, son of a gun, what the hell? And then they're like, wait till we drop this one on them, guys,
Right. And I think this, to that level of prescience, this episode goes through and explains why everything that you thought was so boring is actually important. I didn't even notice. I don't know if it was a reframing of a scene from an earlier episode. I have to go back and watch. But the scene where Geraldine is in the extreme foreground, like sitting on a bench reading a newspaper, was that in the episode where?
It was a quick shot.
Okay, I didn't even catch that. So I'm like, oh, well, that again, everything is important here.
I caught it because I was like, oh, a black person. Oh,
well, and that's also one of the early.
Something's not right here.
Well, no, that's something. This is something I picked up. I did not mention it earlier on, but it's something that helps to set the stage in the pilot episode. You've got a multi-ethnic cast in a genre that was pearly white.
They had meaningful lines. Like, I was shocked. I was like, my gosh, you think? You speak?
The Indian coworker is, I think, the same guy who was in the back of the van with Darcy.
Was that?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
wait, what?
I'm pretty sure it was the same actor. Could be same character.
No.
No, you don't think so?
No.
There are more than 2 Indian people in the world.
No, because
he looked very similar.
He was in it.
Let's not go there.
No, because keep in mind, keep in mind, by the time the team arrives, episodes 1 through 3 are already happening.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, so he was already in there.
Twin brother, cousin. I don't know. Okay. So Mark says that's why I think someone is manipulating Wanda who thinks she is in control of her reality.
Agnes.
Let's see.
Wanda was under control too, though.
You think Agnes is under control too?
I think she goes in and out. I
think she goes in and out of the dome.
She might. Ooh. She might. I mean, I'm just thinking about when in the trailer, Vision touched her, and then all of a sudden she like woke up or whatever. I just think that when you go through this energy field, you become part of whatever the power is that controls your mind. Now, that doesn't mean you can't break free of it. Yeah. You can break free or have that little brain fart where you're like, wait a minute, who am I? What's going on? Yeah. But I still think people are susceptible, maybe to different degrees, to the power of this reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now I'm really curious as to, all right, we know a lot more, obviously, with this episode, but what was happening with Wanda prior to all this?
And I think we're Tony Stark's funeral by a lake to here, right?
Yeah. I think hopefully we'll learn that. I mean, that's something I'm certainly interested in because at this point, it's one thing to show us that like Wanda's doing all this stuff, but we want to know why. Like, why? How do we get there? Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad that you guys reminded me how early on we are in this show. We're almost at the halfway point. By the 15-minute mark of next week, we'll be at the halfway point. It's 9 episodes. But no, there's still so much more room to grow. And Don, you brought up a great point. If this is what qualifies as a filler episode for the series, we're in for a real treat because there's not only stuff to unpack on the surface level, but as EMan put, I think this thing is thick, which
this is gonna make everyone who was lazy or second guessing the show go watch. They're gonna binge this weekend 1 through 4.
I was talking to somebody about this, and they said for the people who have not caught up with the show, for them to watch all 4 in one sitting,
this is gonna be beautiful.
I know.
This is beautiful. Nice. Yeah. That's how I felt with The Mandalorian. I was like, oh, gosh, if only I could have binged The Mandalorian, without things being spoiled. That would be a treat.
Well, without everything being spoiled.
Yeah. Right. I mean, come on. That would have been awesome. But yeah, this is definitely, if you need to binge, now's the time.
Last point I want to ask is, it's a question because at some point in the episode earlier on, I think we see the beekeeper. I don't know if it was a recap part or what. Before we, the hazmat suit guy. But it's before we actually see the reality of what he is. He was an agent who was going under the sewer and got cut off and popped up. But
he's not from AIM.
But this is a theory that we had put out a couple episodes ago. Could that be Doctor Strange? Because we saw a brief glimpse of him when we saw him earlier in the episode during that first shot. I was maybe reading more into it because I was thinking Benedict Cumberbatch. The little bits we see inside the mask is very gaunt and angular and dark. And you're like, that could be Doctor Strange. And then later on, I was like, oh no, that guy looks nothing like Doctor Strange.
And they purposely blacked out his face too,
which is why I'm wondering.
Seems a little unnecessary, but you know.
Hold on, could it still actually be Doctor Strange?
It's the
posing as a guy who's going into the sewer and popping up.
Yeah,
a glimpse of whatever. I don't
know.
Let's see. Last comment from Mark. Was there just a little underlying commentary on the real world pandemic with hospitals running out of beds because so many people suddenly show up in the hospital? When was this thing made?
Within the last year?
It's been delayed for a while. I don't even think.
I'd say maybe about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think it was being made at that time, unless they did a last minute reshoot.
Sure.
You know, but I don't think so.
Yeah. And if not, you know, that's Disney has all sorts of powers, so maybe they could they could see what was going on.
They do own The Simpsons, and The Simpsons predicts everything. So there you go.
That's true. Yeah.
If you guys want to see something really weird, go back and watch Ricky Gervais's Golden Globe speech from 2019.
Oh boy.
I've been watching his show on Netflix, Afterlife, which if you haven't seen it, it's really good. So because I watched that on Netflix, for some reason YouTube knows that and said, hey, you'd like to see a lot of Ricky Gervais content, right? I listened to his Golden Globes thing, and he was talking about movie theaters are officially dead, Netflix owns everything, and we're all going to die soon. It seems completely out of context of the rest of the night. So who knows? Maybe we're living in Westview. But whatever the case, thank you guys for joining me once again for the WandaVision Wecap. This is episode 4, week 3. Figure that one out. And I'm excited for episode 5. And I unfortunately have this weird feeling there's going to come a time where I'm going to be disappointed by an episode. It's just my pessimism, but right now I feel like this is going to be a perfect show. So I'll be proven wrong.
We got a comment down there how the tether changed when it crossed the barrier. I thought it looked like a jump rope, don't you?
It did. Yeah.
Totally a jump
rope.
It
was.
Yeah. And of course, I like the touch of him changing from a hazmat suit to the beekeeper outfit once he went into we'll call it the dome.
This is, to me, the closest analogy or comparison I can give is back when Thanos used the reality stone. When he used the reality stone, let's just say when he did it on Titan, to kind of show Doctor Strange what it looked like. First of all, the reality stone, it only works in a certain vicinity, unless it's powered up or whatever. And, the moment the person leaves, so does that, sphere of reality. And anytime anything penetrates that energy field, it has to convert itself to kind of sort of be compatible with that reality. Right. So that's why we see the drone helicopter change, and, Agent Wu was like, yeah, we didn't do that, and we purposely saw what those helicopter drones look like, but it that doesn't make sense in that reality. So it has to conform in some way. Do they have hazmat suits in the 1950s like that?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering.
We're talking Cold War. They have to. Yeah.
I was just wondering, if they didn't, then maybe that's why he had to go to a beekeeper suit, because that's like the closest.
I think he had to go to a beekeeper suit just because this whole idea is making an idyllic, friendly world, and
right.
But at the same time, somebody is aware of somebody crossing into this dome subterranean in a subterranean level.
Yeah.
So it's not like Wanda was like, I'll give this guy a beekeeper outfit. So it's like something or somebody transferred his whole look. But obviously for him to come up onto the street from a manhole, that's weird. And that's why she's like, no, and rewinds it. And so that doesn't fit her idyllic, world.
But what's interesting is that when you come out, some things change and some don't.
Like
or at least some things clothing have not changed because her clothing didn't change. Yeah. The line jump rope that didn't change. Yeah. So I wonder, could some kids cross the barrier and not change?
That's how you tease an episode for next week.
Kids, just saying. Kids. Yeah. Could some people that were created walk out and become part of this reality?
If you can mold Wonder Woman out of clay, let's do it.
Never know.
Right. Well, yeah, we've got a lot more to talk about. One thing I forgot to ask, and then we'll wrap it up for sure. They're going to be introducing the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, thanks to this Fox deal. Would they introduce the Fantastic Four in a TV series? Because didn't Disney said like a while ago, right, that they were focusing on their streaming content and not so much, theatrical releases. Yeah. So do you think they would drop the Fantastic Four in a series like this as possibly a lead into the movie, as sort of the reversal of what they've been doing, where they introduce things in the big screen and then lead to the small screen?
I think most of the stuff that they're going to be mentioning and name dropping and hinting at, my short answer is no, but I think that they're going to be leading a lot of the stuff that occurs in the programs, the television programs, are going to be leading up to big, events in movies. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't think you want to, because whoever they cast, John Krasinski, in the Fantastic Four, Emily Blunt, you're not going to pay them the big bucks just for a TV appearance or something. Yeah. I do think though, actually, I take that back, because they are spending almost $25 million an episode, for these things, which is movie budgets. Once 25 million times 9, you're getting up to movie budgets anyway. So, especially if we're sitting here thinking that Benedict Cumberbatch is going to show up in WandaVision, then who else, can show up in anything else? But no, I don't think they will have like a dedicated show. But I do think that, they might pop up. You might see a Mr. Fantastic just show up at the end of, I don't know, Falcon and Winter Soldier, whatever, But I do think that they're going to use a movie to really bolster that and,
because
bank on the big bucks.
That's still the first family. It's too important not to put in a movie.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the idea of, well, I gotta say, WandaVision has been more creatively and intellectually satisfying for me than the last few Marvel movies have been, because they've got the time to breathe and really explore the characters, right? So I'm wondering if, in the same way that the first several phases of the MCU started off with individual movies leading up to an Avengers, or the big Avengers, sort of the event, everything coming together. What if the TV series are those clusters of movies, and there's one Fantastic Four thing that kind of is the capstone?
I think the beauty of these shows is that we don't have to use a movie to rehash things we already know, right? So like, we don't need a movie to sit here and give us the origin of the Fantastic Four. We could use the TV shows to be like, hey, you know what? During the blip, blah, 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 this happened, S.W.O.R.D, energy blast, boom, these people exist, and that's all. And then boom, once we get to the movie, we know they exist. Show us their powers. We could jump right in.
And that's sort of what I'm saying is, you've got the exposition issue, and then you've got the giant splash page, which would be the Fantastic Four movie, because you've laid the groundwork. Yeah.
Right. And they've been doing a little bit of that as they've gone in phase 2 and phase 3 anyway. Like thanks to Spider-Man being a very familiar property, he had his little television episode, the last half hour of Winter Soldier, and then you can go to Homecoming and just go. You don't need Uncle Ben. You could just go. You got your introduction of, now they put it in a movie like we're talking about here, but there's shorthand being used, and you can almost do the same thing with I'm trying to think of another one, but like we're even if you do Age of Ultron as the introduction for the origin of Scarlet Witch and Vision, little pieces have been built along the way this whole time, and there's no reason why they can't. You're right. You can't just do the same on television. I don't think I'm with David though. I don't think they're going to go with you'll get some name drops and some things, but they'll save the big things for the big movies. They didn't drop $80 billion to Fox to take those two biggest properties that are huge and not let them be huge.
But they also didn't know there was a pandemic around the corner.
That's the thing that is.
Well, yeah. I mean, they still are technically working on at least 4 different movies right now. So,
yeah.
But they've devoted like everything to these streaming platforms. Like they've shut down the other departments. They're like, yo, you're working over there. No, we're all doing everything streaming.
Yeah. I mean, they're
all
going
hands on deck.
Yeah, they're finishing up Winter Soldier, Falcon. Yep. They're about to film. If we're just talking, Disney itself, they're going to start filming Mandalorian in April. They're moving a lot forward with She-Hulk, and Loki's pretty much filmed, from what I gather. So, yeah, at the same time, you have another Spider-Man movie, another Doctor Strange movie, Eternals, Black Widow, Shang-Chi. So there's a lot still happening, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, all right. We could go on for another 7 hours, I'm sure. No post show. I have to sleep.
Okay.
But again, thanks guys for joining me. I've said that before, but it's still true. I thank you sincerely, Don Shanahan, David Fowley, Emmanuel Noisette. All your information is going to be down there in the description. So please check out their websites and EMan's Crazy Theory videos. Mark, thanks again for hanging out in the chat. Join him and me actually on the Spoiler Room live on, I believe we're going to be talking on Tuesday. And then also Beer Garden Production. I'm not sure if you're still hanging out, but we do appreciate you dropping in, especially for that tidbit about the episode 5 trailer. I might actually have to go check that out just to see if I can pinpoint what you're discussing there. And we'll probably talk about it next week once all is revealed. So until then, thank you. If you like this content, please smash that subscribe and like button. We appreciate it. And we'll be back next week with episode 5 of the WandaVision Recap.
Right.
Good night, everybody.
He's on Rotten Tomatoes now.
What?
You?
Big news. That's right. I am on the Rotten Tomatoes. So thank you. Now I'm ending the broadcast. I'm ending it. Seriously.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we're off. Okay.
That live meter's still moving.
Still moving.
Is it? Oh, damn. Oh, wait. No. You know what? I hit end broadcast and it didn't do anything. I love it. Okay. Now I'm going to